Hi, and welcome to story time in the forest, in the garden. Found another spot on my property to sit. You can see kind of these beams above me. This turns into an outdoor kitchen in the warm months. But at the moment, it's just a structure that's nice for sitting and listening to the birds. Can you hear them? Because I'm going to tell you two stories about birds. And this past week, we've been exploring fire. So these stories are both about birds and about fire. And they're both indigenous stories, but from very different parts of the world. So the first one I'm going to read, some of you probably know. It's called How the Robin Got Its Red Breast. Do you already have some guesses? If we think about fire, birds, and the robin's red breast, how could they be connected? So this is a legend of the Sechelt people. Yeah, so they originally occupied the southern portion of what is now known as the Sunshine Coast, from Gower Point near Gibsons to Saltry Bay, south of Powell River. So those are the Sechelt people. That's where they traditionally lived. And this is their story of how the robin got its red breast. So hopefully you can see the pictures okay. In the very beginning, when the world was young, and some of the first Sechelt people were living in a cave, many things were different than they are today. One of these was the robin. There was a robin, and he loved to get up early in the morning and cheer the first people with his happy song, just like robins do today. But he was missing something. He did not have that glowing red breast that nowadays lends a splash of bright color to our green West Coast spring. He was just gray and dull all over. At the time of this story, the first people needed cheering up because the weather had been bad for a long time, and it was bitterly cold outside. Day after day, the family crowded together in the cave. The grandfather, the grandmother, their sons and daughters, the wives and husbands of the sons and daughters, and many children and babies. One day they realized they were running out of food to eat and would keep themselves they were running out of food to eat and wood to keep themselves warm. So the young men of the group were sent out, some to get wood and some to get meat. The old man and the women stayed in the cave with the children. Can you imagine living in a cave and all that you have to keep you warm is your clothes and a fire? The grandfather watched the fire and kept it going. Even when the women and children went to sleep, he stayed up and tended the fire. The only wood they had left was a few handfuls of sticks and bark chips, so he had to ration it out a tiny bit at a time. But he dare not let the flames die, in case the babies and little children would get chilled and become ill. The young men stayed away many days hunting and looking for wood, and all that time the old man stayed up. The women lay down near the fire, the children tucked under blankets made of cedar bark, and each time they woke up, they were relieved to see their fire still going. Ooh, I'm feeling cold just thinking about it. Finally, all that was left were a few little embers. The grandfather kept them alive by dropping little twigs on them and blowing until the coals glowed brightly. But he was growing more tired every minute, and late in the night he fell asleep. The embers grew dim, and the cave finally began to cool. Uh-oh. Who's that? Towards morning, the robin came along to sing his cheery wake-up song. But when he peered into the cave, he was alarmed to see the fire all but dead. He hopped into the cave past the mothers and babies and the old man, who were all deeply sleeping, and when he reached the firebed, the robin began to beat his wings. A draught swept across the cool gray coals, and a dusting of ashes settled over the sleeping people. The robin flapped more rapidly, and after a while the embers began to glow again, weakly at first, then with a rich red that warmed the dark cave. The bird's bulging little breast reflected the red glow of the fire, and soon the heat began to make him uncomfortable. But he kept flapping his wings so the fire would not die. Later in the morning, the little bird heard the call of the hunters coming back from their long journey. Just as they entered the cave, the bird flew out, and as he flew past them, the men noticed something they had never seen before. The breast of the robin was the color of a glowing ember. Even now, the breast of the robin has a fiery redness which can add a spot of warmth to the cloudiest days. I don't know about you, but I've been seeing lots of robins lately, looking for worms in the garden. Oh, and there's the illustrator, Charlie Craigan. So he made all the pictures in the story. In the end. Wow. So that's the story of how the robin got its red breast. And the second story I'm going to tell is called The Little Hummingbird, and it's also an indigenous story, but from the people, some of the indigenous people of South America. So a totally different part of the world, totally different climate, probably lots of different types of animals that live there. Here we go. The Little Hummingbird. Here is the story of the great forest that caught on fire. The terrible fire raged and burned. All of the animals were afraid and ran away from their homes. The elephant and the tiger ran, the beaver scurried, and the frog leapt away. Above them, the birds flew in a panic. You can see the birds up there, and then all the other animals also running away, fleeing the fire. The creatures huddled at the edge of the forest and watched, all except for one. Little Hummingbird did not abandon the forest. She flew as fast as she could to the stream. She picked up a single drop of water in her beak. Now that looked like a big fire. What's a single drop of water going to do? Little Hummingbird flew back and let the water fall onto the ferocious fire. She dashed to the stream and brought another drop, and she continued back and forth, back and forth. The other animals watched Little Hummingbird, and they were frightened. "What can I do?" sobbed Rabbit. "This fire is hot, and I am scared." "This fire is so big," howled Wolf, "and I am so small." "I can't do anything about this fire," croaked Frog. "My wings will burn," cried Owl. Little Hummingbird continued her work. She flew quickly, picking up more water and putting it drop by drop onto the burning forest. Finally, Big Bear said, "Little Hummingbird, what are you doing?" Little Hummingbird looked at the other animals. She said, I'm doing everything I can. And that's the end. And then there's a section about hummingbirds. It says, the amazing hummingbird. Hummingbirds are amazing. Not only are they beautiful, they can also fly up to 50 kilometers per hour. Wow. And hover in midair by flapping their wings more than 50 times per second. And they are the only birds able to fly backwards. More than 350 species of this extraordinary little bird live on Earth. Wow. The hummingbird appears in the stories of many peoples, including the parables of the indigenous peoples of South, Central, and North America. The hummingbird often symbolizes beauty as well as hope. This story of a small hummingbird determined to put out the forest fire is told by the Quechua people of Ecuador and Peru. The Tsimshian people of the North Pacific describe the hummingbird as a joyful messenger. If she appears during a time of sorrow or pain, they know that healing will soon follow. The hummingbird is often thanked for bringing life-giving rain. Just like in the story, huh? In a story from the Pueblo people of the southwestern United States, a hummingbird gathers clouds from the 4 directions in order to bring rain to douse the flames that are burning the earth. In the language of the Haida Nation of the North Pacific, the hummingbird is called duk-duk-dium, in imitation of the delicate bird's song and the sound of its beating wings. Little Hummingbird in the Burning Forest and the hummingbirds in the stories of many peoples show us that it is not always the largest or the loudest that can do the most good. Little Hummingbird's efforts are a reminder that the one who is not afraid to act can make the biggest difference. No matter how big or small you are, huh? Wow. So we had the little hummingbird and how the robin got its red breast. And you'll probably be able to find both of these birds in your backyard or near to your house, because I've certainly seen a lot of both of them. And maybe they can remind you of these stories and teach you how we can all affect each other in positive ways. So thanks for joining me for those 2 stories in the garden. So good to breathe the fresh air and listen to the birds. Maybe you're doing the same. And I'll see you soon for another story. Bye.